So today is November 13th. It is a Saturday. Woke up this morning, went to Ray's restaurant. I'm still wearing the shirt, and it's like 7 o'clock at night. So I went there, worked a little bit, and then I left early because my dad was coming over because it's the weekend. We were going to work on some more stuff here. We tackled a decent bit, and we made some progress, and we definitely learned a lot. So let me kind of walk you back through everything that we kind of went over, because this is kind of integral in at least some of the living room stuff that we're doing. Obviously the attic is where our air handler is, so the air conditioning and all that sort of stuff. There was just a lot going on. I'm going to try to go through exactly what we were kind of thinking about and doing and all that. So let's go into the attic. All right, we're in the attic. So just to, clarify, attics aren't really that fun. This one isn't terrible, but it's not, it's not the greatest. It's an attic, it's not great. What I was kind of doing, I'm a laborer when I'm around my dad, especially in this type of area. I'm just trying to help and everything like that. So what I did do was I cleaned up a good bit. I mean, not really gonna be able to tell because there's still insulation everywhere, but I tried to gather up a bunch of trash. There was old insulation and a couple things that we'll note while we're up here. So the insulation that you see here, this pink stuff, I'm pretty sure is R11. There is even older shit underneath here that is kind of, I don't know when it's from, but there's older stuff underneath there. It's like black and covered in dust and everything like that, but it's an old house, so it's whatever. But so the point is they've obviously added to it. And it's not a bad situation. It's actually not really that dusty up here. It's not great. We coughed a little bit, but it's not terrible. So we got that. Obviously our big air handler here is in the middle. We haven't even gotten to that point yet. So when we get to that point, I will let you know. The only thing I did was I taped this little bit off here. That was the last time we were up here. It was added after the fact so that, the house doesn't have ductwork, all that jazz, Anyway, the thing that we were really working on mainly today was right up here, and you can't see some of it because this is a light right here, and there's a light down there where that little porcelain thing is, and then there's a couple more that you still probably can't really see down there. Not all these yellow lights that are hanging because that's just temporary stuff, but there's a light right behind that thingy right there. It doesn't really matter. The point is that we added 4 lights to the attic here. They function off of a switch right down in the hallway there, so that's cool. Also added this little outlet right here that you can kind of see, so that's nice if we need to do that. Outlet is always hot. The switch controls just the lights. Like I said, there's 4 of them. All these other things are going to be ripped out of here temporary when we're done working. It's going to be a nice little thing because some point we're probably going to do some storage or whatever over here once we get everything done and we have, wood laid, so you can actually put stuff here instead of just the joists with the insulation and all that. But that's one of the main things we tackled here because we got a lot to do on this air handler, a lot of insulation. We might move some of the I guess the drainage there with the PVC and everything like that on the side. So yeah, when it comes to all that, we still have a lot to take care of, but because we're in the attic, it gives us an interesting perspective on some things, or an interesting opportunity to look at some things, to try to plan things out. We want lights, recessed lighting in the living room, because again, I've mentioned this before, for some reason 1960s builders did not put overhead lighting in the living rooms. God only knows why. Anyway, we want to do that. And we want to do that, and the way we're going to have to do that is going to be in the living room, obviously, look where we want them and everything, and try to drill up and kind of see where we're at. And in relationship to the attic, it's kind of on this side over here, right? So where all this wood is, we're going to have to, kind of pull it up a little bit. It's not, drilled down or anything like that, so it won't be that big of a deal. But somewhere in here, okay, this general area over here that we're looking at, there's going to be 4 to 6 lights in the ceiling, right? In the floor in this case that we're looking at. Now that isn't in and of itself necessarily too difficult, but we also want, to tie into some switches downstairs, and that's what we're kind of looking at after we got these lights and everything set up here. So then we were like, okay, well, let's try to place some lights downstairs, see where we want those and see what the deal is with the electrical down there. So now let's go down in the living room and see what we found with all that. All right, so we're in the living room here, and let me spin this around so we can kind of see, right? We're at the hallway, we're looking in. At the top here is where we want to put the lights, obviously in the ceiling. This switch over here, which kind of makes sense. You know, you're coming from like the bedroom area or whatever. This switch right here controls, obviously not the overhead lighting currently, it actually controls that little outlet right over there, because I'm assuming that was like a lamp or something, right? So that is a three-way switch. This one right over here is a three-way switch on that outlet. And then the other switch in that three-way is this guy right here. And then this is the porch light. So the situation that we have is, and then we found once we, you know, ripped things off the wall and everything, we're thinking, okay, how do we get this fed with power, right? If we want to put these lights in the ceiling, it's not that hard to get them in there, but how are we going to get the lights down to those switches? And it's a big cluster because those two, there's those switches, there's this outlet. So we got 1, 2, this outlet, 3, that outlet, 4, 5 over there. There's another one there, 6. This thing, this hallway light, all of the shit in the bathroom, just this outlet over here, not those ones, just this one over here, everything here, which is everything on the attic, all of that is currently on one breaker. Like, so it's all one big circuit, right? And I'll try to keep it, you know, I'll make a long story short. What we basically ended up figuring out was we were like, you know, my dad was like, how did they get all of that power back there? Because, you know, the box is up here, or the panel's up here in the front. And then, you know, we kind of thought like we trying to trace the wires. We were in the attic. They did some weird shit. They brought one wire like all the way up into the attic or whatever. And there's like 4 or 5 wires coming in this fucking box here. So it's just weird stuff. And I'm not even 100% sure I understand like the entirety of this, but I think basically is once we ripped this one out, we realized that it kind of gets all ran down to this, like after it hits that switch, power gets ran down into this outlet, and then from this outlet, the power continues to move across all the way like into the back. We thought that maybe it kind of, you know, went through the attic or whatever. It wasn't the case. That's not how it went. So we devised a plan. We were thinking about a lot of different things, a lot of different ways to get, you know, and utilize this circuit like a little better, I guess. I'm not an electrician. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. But to make this better. And ultimately, we went back and forth like on a bunch of different things because, again, we were trying to figure it all out. Ultimately, this is kind of what we're at, where we're at this point. We're gonna split it up. We're gonna make a new breaker. The existing breaker is gonna have the lights in the ceiling. It's gonna have the porch light. There's also an exterior outlet out there. You know, that goes down somehow from this box as well. And I think that'll be it. We're gonna cut the power that moves forward into those other things. We're just not gonna deal with that because that'll be on its own amp, breaker on that and all that, and it'll be fine. Then when we cut that power that goes basically from that and pushes it throughout the rest, we're gonna cut it, imagine just like snipping it right here, right? We had a problem, we're like, well, we need to feed the rest of this, right? If we're gonna make this its own, you know, circuit, its own breaker down there, we need to feed the rest of it, we need to figure out how the hell we're gonna do that. So one of the ideas we had was to go up into the attic from the panel, which is over on this wall over here, and like do something where like we bring it all the way up and like into the attic or through this closet or whatever. And then we're down at the panel and we're like, you know, what if we did something else? Like, you know, that was our original plan, and we're trying to think of how to do it. And I didn't really want to go through the closet, and I didn't want to go outside, and I didn't want to, you know, and also we brought some stuff down. I'll go down there in a second because I just don't want to go back up and down, but I'll give you that side of the story. But we wanted to go up through that wall. It's not going to work because, you know, we tried the little fishing line thing, and it's like literally a whole plate there. There's not like an empty wall. Basically, we're standing here and we're looking at this ugly ass thing on the wall that's going to get removed and patched and everything. And I was thinking, well, wait a second. There is a wire going into this right now. Like we didn't think it was live at the time. We did a little bit more testing and we saw that as well. But we don't think this is live, but there's a wire going here. And I'm like, what if we like took this into consideration? Like we're downstairs and then we kind of like thought through that, and we're probably going to be able to take this out, remove the box and everything because we won't have any wire there. This will all be gone, this big thing up here. But this wire comes down here. We verified that it comes down here, and we're probably just going to try to take that power, put it in a new breaker down on in the panel, which again I'll show you in a second, and then imagine a wire that comes straight down this wall, right? And it like just right up this stud or whatever. We're going to take that, pull that out of there, and then pull it into this and tie it into here, and then this will feed power to this whole other, you know, rest of this circuit here. So like this one over here, basically everything that wasn't like this switch and these lights. So that was probably kind of a shitty explanation, but and it'll hopefully it'll all make sense. You're never gonna really see any of it. I should probably document it though, because that would be nice. But I'm gonna go downstairs now, and I'm just gonna show you kind of like the panel side of things that we're kind of looking at. I'm not gonna open the panel, but just, you know, that type of conversation that we had down there, because it's actually kind of interesting, even though there's a whole rat's nest of shit going on down there. Before I do that, just a real quick update on the showroom that was down here before. Don't mind these things, these little things that I've pulled off the wall, because we were also messing with the boiler and stuff like that, and the hot water heater, which is in pretty good shape and everything like that, so that's not a big deal. But in our showroom down here, we had a lot of things. We had this glass TV stand that I've tried to sell multiple times and just people don't want to come get it. I'm going to try to sell that TV, but you notice there's a lot less furniture here. I actually sold a 4-drawer dresser today for 35 bucks. Totally randomly, the guy messaged me and came and got it within 15 minutes. That was fantastic. Super happy about that. So let's talk about this briefly. Okay, so here's our panel. It's lovely. Just kidding. There's a lot of shit going on in there. Just to kind of recap, like I said, first thing, I guess, was that my dad told me that this wire was useless. I mean, obviously it was totally disconnected, but apparently it was something for the water thing before, and we got rid of it. You know, I snipped it or whatever, and it just, you know, it doesn't do anything. So that's fantastic. And then over here, obviously our panel and such, there's just this is the wire actually that goes to that 220 thing, right? And there was a fuse box sitting right here. That fuse box is a souvenir now, because we ripped that off the wall after we made sure that it wasn't, you know, being powered or anything. So that's gone. Good riddance to you. But what we're going to try to do now is this wire comes from that thing, like I said, upstairs, and then this downstairs component of this, we're going to put like a junction box or whatever in here, and then we're going to, you know, bring it into the panel on a new breaker. And then that breaker will power hopefully everything else that is not those lights and the exterior thing, and all that stuff. So really not too much craziness, but this is what I'm talking about here. Is you can't really see up there great, and that's kind of actually the point. We took off this stuff down here, and because we were thinking about going up this wall, and you can't really, you know, they have, you know, like wires and everything running up there, but they're just drilled through like little small holes, and it's not just like an open exterior thing. So that's where we're at there. I'm gonna replace all this at some point with something better than this little, you know, whatever, permeable, whatever this is. I have no idea, something. But that's where we're at on that. Panel's crazy, it's a mess, trying to fix that. But super happy about this, because if this situation works, it'll be really cool, because we don't have to actually run a cable up there. We already have it and everything. And that'll be really cool if that powers the rest of that stuff. While we're down here and we're talking about all sorts of wires and shit, just another thing that I will mention briefly, because it's not super important, but it was interesting, is we had this little wire here, just this little, like, almost looking like a telephone wire, and it was coming through this hole in the wall that you can kind of see like a little bit right behind this thing here. And like there's a hole out here, and I thought this was maybe for like a telephone thing at one point, but I actually think maybe it was more for a thermostat for the boiler. It's kind of what my dad kind of told me, and I don't know what that is. I still don't know what that is. But this came through here, came through that hole, went up to the, you know, almost the top of the ceiling here, went down. And then there's actually like a little bit more of it, And then there's a hole down there that goes into the boiler thing. So I don't know. Again, it's not really a big update. It's just some more bullshit that I'm just going to kind of rip out of here because it's not being used, which I'm totally fine with. I love making this, like, actually, now that I'm looking at this, I'm taking a step back because I didn't even realize it. This is amazing. I am so anxious to see the before and after shots. There was so many weird like wires, obviously like the coax cable and stuff like that. Some things I still probably need to patch and things, but there was like coax cable on the ceiling when we got this, and there was you know, wires and stuff that didn't need to be there. Not a big deal. I mean, for most people, like it, like who cares? But like I just like the simplicity of it because there's so many things that, you know, there's so many things that are going to make it complex as it is, that if I as a homeowner can just be like, oh, there's a problem, I don't have to search for where it's, like, you know, you still have to probably search for where the, like, a little bit of the issue is, but if you can kind of like have at least somewhat of an idea, I don't know, I just think that's fantastic. So a couple little things there, and that's probably it. I really need to clean this place up a little bit because it's getting to be a real hard place to work in because there's just a mess of everything everywhere. But we are kind of starting to turn the corner on a little bit of things. The outside is looking great from the last, you know, couple days that you've seen, and we're starting to kind of move a little bit. I don't want to say quicker, but I don't know. I need to get back to painting, so soon, this coming week maybe. I don't know. Stay tuned. Alrighty, today is Sunday, November 14th. I was just here yesterday. As you saw in the last clip, I was here with my dad yesterday. I was here with my dad again today for like 4 hours or so. Again, we do like big tasks. Like that's what we do. Like we do like normally 1 or 2 big tasks. Normally they're tasks that should seem simpler on the front end, sort of. And then they're like a pain in the ass, you know, and if we're in an attic, it's even worse. But today we weren't in the attic, actually. Today we're down here in the living room because of that plan that I think I kind of outlined yesterday, but it was probably terrible because you probably couldn't visualize it at all. I'm going to show you here what we did today, and it'll make a lot more sense. So we're over here, corner of the living room. Let me actually pull this light back slightly. Okay, so this is the corner of the living room here, right? This is the front of the house. This is this eyesore that's going to be gone, the air conditioning unit. Right here is where we were working for like 3 hours. And the reason we're doing that is because this right here was a 220 outlet. Had a box, had the outlet in there. We took all that out. Reason we took that out because that was fed directly from the panel downstairs, which like ran, that thing runs down here. It's actually there, I'll talk about it in a second. Like down into the floor, I think, across the house, and then over to that wall, down. The panel's over there. That's the point. So we needed to do something different because there was a huge circuit in here. There was like one breaker that had, you know, the hallway over there, some of the bathroom, an outlet in the bedroom, basically all of this room. We want to put lights in the ceiling in this room, and it was just a real pain to try to do something different. I'm not even sure if it was possible. There was just too much shit on that. So what we ended up doing was, you know, the long and the short of it was we kind of separated that circuit. So if we're looking over here, there's 2 switches. One is going to be ultimately to the ceiling lights here, and the other switch is to an exterior light. There's also an exterior outlet outside, and then this outlet and all of that stuff that I just mentioned is on one circuit now, and then pretty much everything else that I mentioned before, like this outlet, all the outlets in this room, except for, again, this weird outlet over here. I don't want to stare right into the light here, but like there's an outlet over here on this wall. The whole house is wired a little weird, but we did our best to try to like break it up and to make this easier on ourselves as we try to get these lights in the ceiling. So just with all of that, we needed to get some more power, and we're taking this big bitch out of the wall, and we're gonna, you know, we were gonna get rid of this outlet anyway. So I had this idea yesterday, just to recap. Now, why don't we just use the wire that is already running from the panel, because that should work, you know, however we were doing that. So what we did was we were down here on the floor, and this is what we did. The first thing I did was I took off this baseboard. And side note, while we're here and talking about the baseboards, there is a half decent chance that I might just take off all the baseboards, and we might just, you know, we might just take off all the baseboards, because I originally was just taking off the quarter round in the other rooms, and I have done that. but if we could just take off the baseboards and not use the cord around, that might be an idea too. I don't know, the baseboard, I just thought it was gonna come off. It was gonna be more difficult to get off, but it actually wasn't. I don't know, haven't decided on that. This is the only piece of it that I've taken off, but just a random side note. We needed to do it anyway, because originally our plan here, it's kind of funny seeing the hole, but originally the plan here was to cut in underneath where the baseboard is. And the reason we're gonna do that is because, again, this wire went up this wall, right? And it was like up there, and we thought, okay, it's just gonna come straight down, and it was gonna be somewhere over here in this area. And that didn't happen because there's like a stud here somewhere or something like that. And it actually comes, I guess, through that stud somewhere up at the top. Actually, that's probably not true because I think there's studs on the other side. Anyway, point is, there's a huge bay here, like in the middle of these. And the wire came across, and then there's a stud right here, and it went down. And our goal here was to get power to this outlet so we could basically cut the wires that go this way that connected it over there, because again, we separated that thing. Again, long and short of it, we pulled that out of there. We pulled that wire out of there. We got rid of that outlet in that box. We pulled the wire out of there. We came down here and we're like, all right, let's make a little hole. We started pulling this wire right here. We started pulling it down, and we had like fish tape thing kind of going through on the other side, and it was coming a little bit, and then it got stuck to a wire that like comes from this box here, comes up and goes over. It was literally, it took us probably an hour and a half to get this wire ultimately out of this wall, because this hole wasn't this big at first. We kind of just like kept making it bigger. I stuck my arm in in this wall, like all the way up there, you know, just trying to get shit out of the wall and all that. But eventually we got it to the point where we had enough wire to finish this up. And that's what we did, was we just ended up snipping it. We finally got it out of there. We got some patchwork to do. You can kind of see in there, there's a hole that goes through the stud, and then it just gets fed up right into here. I don't want to touch this because this is hot, but you know, it comes right into here. It powers in here, and then this is like kind of where the circuit starts in a sense. That's where the power comes, and then from this outlet, it just goes down to like that outlet. Now, you know, a couple outlets around there, and to the rest of the circuit. So that's basically like the big thing that we kind of accomplished. We got that done. We wired it, you know, initially there, and that was good. Obviously, I have to patch this at some point later down the line, and but that it works. You know, we wanted to make sure that everything would work there. So once we did that, though, that was just half of the job, right? Because that was wiring it, you know, in the circuit here. But then we had to go downstairs to the panel, and my dad just is a wizard with that, and he just whipped that up. So I'll just go briefly show you kind of what we did there. So we're down at the panel, and if you remember from yesterday, there was a thing here. There was like a little fuse box. We took that off yesterday, and today, because it's kind of just like we replaced it, right? We kind of replaced it with this box here, which is just a little junction box. It's just a connection of, this is the wire that we just saw on the wall. This is a new wire that we put in there. They just connect in there. That's the right way to do it. And then my dad was like, you know, working in the panel here, and we now have a brand spanking new little breaker right here that controls that second half, if you will, or that new circuit. And then we just have the lesser stuff, you know, the front light switch and all that sort of stuff on the other one. And it's looking good. I got to relabel this panel and deal with all that. And it's a rat's nest in here. I don't know if I've actually shown that. Maybe I have a picture or something, but it's a rat's nest in there. My dad is very skilled at working with that, but he did say that it's almost dangerous to work in there just because there's stuff all over the place. So maybe at some point we'll fix that. But for the time being, though, this is great. It works way better. I mean, it's gonna work way better, especially, you know, as we get the lights on and everything. And it looks clean, and it's fine. So that's definitely a win there for another day of working with Dad. While we were working on that, Amanda came, and she has been painting in our office here. She's been touching it up, doing a great job, after I made her mad because I did not answer her because my phone was on silent, and she's a little angry. She might still be a little angry. Are you angry?
You didn't answer me at all.
I didn't answer it for 3 hours.
No, you didn't answer me at all. You never answered me.
I didn't answer it at all. But she's painting. So, yeah. Home ownership. Home renovations.